Hello everyone and welcome to Lowrentrick scale modelling, and this is my build of the 135 scale Tamiya M8 US Howitzer motor carriage. Now this seems to be an extremely popular little model. I can understand it from a price point and an ease of build after building it. I found it an extremely enjoyable build. I don't know how long it's been around. If any of the experts out there watching, please drop any info you've got about this model into the comments for me. This kit seems like a straightforward build. It's in great condition. It's got a really good set of tracks. It looks like it used to be an old motorized kit. Again, jump in the comments if you've got any info. I'm going to start with an undercoat of Vallejo dark green over the entire thing, and because it's such a straightforward build, I'm going to go for quite a bit of weathering on this one. We're going to go for a bit of rust and a bit of mud. I thoroughly enjoy building armour, but sometimes wheel assemblies, hull assemblies can be a bit of a chore. But these there's not a lot here, and they're really good little sub assemblies. They fit together really well, so it's not too big or daunting a task. At least there's not 30 odd road wheels to worry about on this one. The build can really be split into three parts: the turret, the upper hull, and the lower hull and wheel assemblies. And the ease of build, the turret is probably the most complicated because it's difficult to work out which way round some of the more complex pieces go. But it's once you've got it, it's quite easy. So the sub assemblies will all be built, and then that'll give me more time in my window to get some concentration for the weathering, because I want to get quite a realistic look on this one. While we're on the subject of rattling through the build, I've had a few comments recently about the time-lapse sections of my videos, so it's an opportunity to get a bit of feedback from you guys out there. Now, on the more complex builds, I do tend to take my time and show a bit more detail, but on these ones, I tend to time-lapse it out a little bit. So, would you prefer to see these builds in time-lapse, or maybe just clips in real time, nice and slow of the builds? It would be interesting for me to know, with over 100 videos out there now. They usually follow this format with quite fast time lapses of the less complicated parts. But let me know what you think, and it might change the way that I approach these videos in the future. I'm always a bit worried about doing longer form of videos because these builds can take sometimes 10 hours, and I'm pretty sure nobody's going to sit down and watch a 10-hour build. But let me know what you think anyway, and I'll take it on board and integrate that into the way that I make the videos in the future. The three sub-assemblies are now going to get another coat of dark green over the top to pinpoint any areas that I've missed or any areas that I've scuffed during the build with my sausage fingers. And then once that's dried off, I'm going to go over the entire surface that we see with a slightly lighter matte green. And that tends to give the model a bit more depth for when we come to picking out the detail with the panel lining and the weathering. So the first step is to go over with Tamiya panel line accent, and this is the dark brown. And what this does is it makes all the details pop, keeps your eye in. You can see all the seams really well, but there's another use for it which we'll come on to later, as it's slightly oil based and hydrophobic. When we start to put on the washes for the rust, the rust can tend to ball on the surface because it's had this wash over it, and then if you leave that to dry, it makes a really nice pitted effect for those rust spots, which we'll see a little bit later on. But in the meantime, we're just going to get all these lines done and get the detail to pop out. The track pieces are extremely good quality and do take on the paint really well. I'm using Vallejo metallic gunmetal on these, to give them that really nice shine before we weather over them with rust and mud, and also get the little few bits done in between as well, give them a base of the gunmetal, and then I'm going to join them with a good strong super glue. Painting the wheels while they're actually attached to the hull and to the mechanisms is recommended in a few of the Tamiya instructions I've seen, and it is a reasonably good method. I tend to do them separately, so you don't get any black or anything onto the body or the hull. But in this case, it's a good way to do it, because obviously the wheels are barely going to be seen underneath the weathering that I'm going to put on. The weathering is going to be quite heavy, but still I like to get a good job of them done. So it really does take the time, but it's worth getting those lines just right, and getting the edges of the wheels really done right, because you don't know which parts are going to poke through and how accurate it's going to need to be. Now we get into the actual weathering. So there's going to be multiple layers go on. Uh, Lighter layers built up over a period of time tend to make a much better effect. So there's going to be a combination of things used. So this is actually Revell Titanic hull paint that I'm using here, and some Airfix Titanic hull colour as well. So there's a base going down of a very watered down rust coloured paint, and then I'm going over the top with this Revell weathering set. Now these are 6 pigments. I'll stick a link in the description. So they come as powder. You can use them as both powder and as liquid, and they really are stunning. They give a great effect, and also a nice key on the surface for anything to stick to. So the panel line accent here, it's going on quite thick, and then it's getting moved around to give a sort of oily finish on the surface of the paint. And also when we then add the liquid rust, it will ball slightly on the surface, as the surface is now hydrophobic. It will make the rust ball, and when it dries you get this wonderful rust pitting effect. As the pigment starts to dry off, as you'll see on the front right there, in the time lapse, it does go very, very dusty and muddy. It's a lovely effect, but if you think it's gone a bit too far, you can always add a thin coat with the airbrush of your chosen varnish, and that will pull the whole effect back a little bit, and then you can continue to build. So I'm going over this many times with a mixture of both the wet paint, the dry pigment, the wet pigment, and some panel line accent. It looks very severe while still wet, and as it dries off, you'll get an idea of how the effect is working out, and then you can add or maybe take away however you feel. This won't be very severely weathered, although it looks it while it's being constructed. The effect is actually quite subtle when it's finished, and the more layers that you add, or the more gentle each layer is, the more depth you'll get on the effect, and I think the more effective it will look. You can really see as I turn the model around here, when I see the other side, how much that mud effect has dried in. It really does look fantastic, and it'll keep getting wet and coming back, and so you'll hopefully find a nice happy balance in between. For the turret, I'm going to use exactly the same process, but I'm going to back right off on the mud and on the pigment, because I want the bottom of the model to be far more muddy than the top. And I'm going to concentrate on the edges a little bit and get a bit of the rust on the sharp edges, and hopefully that will really pull the two halves together. So this part here is where I was talking about the surface has had a fine coating of the panel line accent colour, and now I'm just going over with a wet, really watered down rust pigment and paint. And what's happening is the paint isn't sticking to the model, it's just got balling in very small balls on the surface, and then I'm just going to leave that to dry off, and it'll appear like rusted pitting. It's a really cracking little effect. And what you'll see here now is I'm going to add a little bit of the polyurethane varnish over the top, and it'll really pull that effect back. So it may look really overdone when it's dried off, but you can just add a little bit of varnish over the top and it will pull the effect right back and keep it there. And then if you think it needs a touch more, you can add a touch more. So you can go backwards and forwards with these weathering techniques, and just get the balance right to where you want it. And people will complain anyway, is what I found. I find that I always stick to the mantra of it's your model, you paint it how you wish, and I think that's the right way to go with modelling. I do get a lot of criticism for some of my weathering, but this is just showing how I like to do it, and if you want to do it that way, then you go right ahead. Doing the same now on the main body, just adding a bit of the polyurethane varnish over the top to pull the effect back a bit and to fix what's already been done. Going to get the figure done now. This kit actually comes with three, but I'm only going to use one in the display that I'm putting this model in, and I'm just going to basically give him a nice sort of fleshy, sandy undercoat with the airbrush, and I'm going to then just give him a little bit of detail. I'm also going to do the tools next, get them mounted to the back of the howitzer, and they will also get a bit of weathering too. Then finish it all off with the decals. This decal is in an extremely bumpy place, so he's just got a little daub of extra thin on top of it, and it really melts that decal down and makes it grip into all those surfaces. Probably what microsol and microset are for, but I find that this works just as well if you're very light and very careful with it. So once the decals are on, the final weathering process begins, and it's also important to make sure that your decals get a bit of weathering too, because they stand out like a sore thumb against a rusty, muddy hull. These glaring white or multicolored decals. So it's important to remember to give them a little bit of weathering over as well, and then to finish it all off with your final layer of varnish. And there we go with the finished article. What a cracking little model to build and weather. I'm really pleased with how the weathering came out. It's exactly where I wanted it to be. I'll put links in the description to the weathering set that I used, the Revell one. It is a good little pigment set. I love how that dry mud looks. And I'll put a link in the description too to the video I did after this one, when I obtained a rust stain and streaking Vallejo paint set, and I weathered up a T62 tank from Tamiya. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know if you are still watching. I don't know if people do watch my videos to the end. It's nice when somebody says hello, that they've watched it all the way through. Please join me for the next one. I've got some really cracking vintage stuff coming up, and please do check out our Facebook group, Scale Modelling for Everyone, and maybe pop into the shop and buy a mug to support my channel or become a member. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you in the next video.